Hi, this is my first video blog since moving back to LA. I did a video about all the fun little creatures down at Abalone Cove Beach, but this is the first one, whoa, watch out, that I've had since just sitting and talking to you since coming here. So what I'd like to talk to you about today actually is connecting with the city and connecting in the city, because after I spent about 9 months in the middle of awesome nature, wonderfulness with, you know, really intense natural energy and really no development at all, now I'm back in like one of the most developed places that I've ever been, much less lived, and right in the center of it. And so at first I was a little bit nervous because I didn't know if I would be able to connect the same way. I mean, it's a lot easier, one would think, to connect with life and nature energy and earth energy when the earth is right there in front of you. But when it's all paved over and there's artificial noises and not very good oxygen, obviously in Los Angeles with all the smog and everything, I was a little scared and I didn't know what would happen. But I also felt very directed to come here. So what ended up opening my eyes after I got here, right after I got here, because I had to be here in order to get it, was that in my meditations each day, one of the things I do is kind of plug in and talk to Gaia as a unified consciousness, kind of the same way that as if you're talking to a person, say you're doing a healing, especially for all you energy workers, and I know that a lot of people who watch my videos are energy workers, either official or unofficial. Anyway, you can zoom in and talk to like one body cell of a person. Say someone's struggling with cancer or an organ that isn't quite doing what it should be doing. You can zoom in and talk to that organ or to those cancer cells or to those cold germs or Lyme parasites or whatever you have. Or you can talk to the person. And so with connecting with Gaia, sure, you can connect with a tree or a flower or an animal or a human or whatever, or you can zoom out and speak to Gaia as a unified entity. So one of the things that I do is speak to her, and sometimes she'll give me advice or information, or she'll tell me to do something, just little things like go outside more, or hey, will you go to this place and do energy work, or when you do this task today, this is what I need you to do once you're there. So after moving here, I would plug in with her, and I found that it wasn't harder, A, which was really surprising because I expected it to be, so it didn't meet my expectations in a good way, and B, that it was as if I was getting information about what to do while I was in the city, and not only to help myself, but also to help the surrounding area. And let's see, there are a few. The first one is that when you're doing targeted energy work, which is fabulous and it's fun and there's definite value to it, that's great. But she specifically said to me that targeted energy work is nice, it works, it's beneficial, but if you can make yourself as present as possible and really spread your awareness around in your environment rather than in some thought pattern you've got going or in a future thought or a past memory, then you have an even greater impact. And when you're talking about manifestation and things, it's really good to focus on that future creation that you're trying to make, but then you've got to let it go and come back here, and that's how it's able to work. I heard someone say it's like digging up a seed to see if it's growing all the time if you keep checking on your manifestation constantly. And that's a struggle for me, is to not always think about the future, but to spread yourself around in the present and be very aware of your physical sensations and of the emotions that you're having in the present time. And what Gaia said was true presence, with a capital P, makes each person work like a filter, like a Brita filter or something, that you're filtering all of the, you know, whatever needs to go out of your environment and bringing this magic to it that would not be there if you were A, not there, or B, there and not present. So presence alone does a huge amount. And that goes for wherever you are, but I think especially in the city where so many people are not present and on their electronic devices or worried about something, thinking about something, rushing. I mean, road rage alone out here in LA is enough to really turn your head and make you wonder what the heck is going on. But that's also why a little bit of presence and really meeting someone's eyes as you pass them on the sidewalk or whatever really makes such a huge difference. So that's the first thing. The second thing is about the fairies out here. I didn't think there would be fairies because I never knew of fairies before I moved out to the Blue Ridge Mountains. But apparently there are a lot here, and it's funny because they have a different feel. They're like urban fairies, which I have no idea. I did not expect it, but the way that I at least see fairies, and I know that a lot of people have different experiences, but mine is, I'll say, spot a place where they are and you can kind of get a feel for it. I know in another video I said if you look for moss, pretty much if you see moss, that's it. Also really interesting, intricate trees, and especially trees with like those knot holes in them that go deeply in, those are prime fairy real estate spots. And there are some other things too that you can look for, but essentially starting off on those, because I think we all have our individual things that we're attracted to as far as seeing the different types of creatures we're ambassadors for. But anyway, so once I spot an area that is fairy rich, it's as if in my mind's eye then I get an image of someone, and someone who I've never seen, someone who's often small and wearing really interesting clothes. And it's funny because there's definitely a difference between here and Rappahannock where I was. The fairies are different, they look different, they act different. I mean, Los Angeles has been here for a really long time, and so they've really become part of the city, and it's just a really different thing. So anyway, there are tons of fairies, which makes it easier to connect with nature when you're in a city, is when you see, you know, a tree or whatever, and you chat with the beings that live around it, because one of the main things about being so deep in a city is that the fairies have all moved to where the nature is. So say there's just a little park that's like a city block big, really small, there'll be probably a ton there because they're not living spread out the way that they normally would. So that's the second thing. It's been really fun. And the third and the most important one, I think, is about connecting with the actual stuff in the city. Because when you're in the country, you can feel your heart open in response to all of the trees communicating through and around you, and all of the earth and the rock and the plant material everywhere, which makes this intricate grid of life and consciousness. And I thought that coming back into the city things would seem dead and static, but actually in my conversations with Gaia, she told me that I don't remember the direct quote, but what she said was that the cities and the buildings and the streets are just as much a part of me, being her, as are the trees and the mountains and the rocks. They're all of Gaia. So you can connect with them in just the same way. It's as if you went to a cultivated park rather than being out in a natural preserve. It's going to be different, it's going to be more touched by human hands, but it's still nature and you can still connect with it. And I know, at least for myself, I actually connect better in cultivated parks than I do out in pure nature, just because I don't recognize what I should be paying attention to in pure nature, and so I feel overwhelmed, which I think will go away as I spend more time there. But so in a city, you connect with, say, concrete, right, is made out of stone as well as other things, but the stone is the one that you pay attention to as you would a crystal, or as you would a big living rock face as you're hiking. Also in asphalt, depending on where you live, sometimes there are shells in the asphalt that make up the road. Sometimes there's a lot of quartz, and quartz, of course, always is fabulous. And I think there's a good amount of quartz in concrete as well. So you can be connecting with these things and charging them up. And as you're driving along a road, you know, charging the road with all of your intentions the way you would a crystal, or even buildings that you go into, especially ones made heavily of concrete, which is really popular out here. And the same thing with, you know, steel beams. It's all just metal, which is stone and crystal. And I never would have expected that. I had always felt pretty infringed upon when being in very linear type situations, but it's really funny because although on some instances I have the desire to just really get completely non-linear and do something crazy, which I don't do, but there's that piece of breaking free that wants to happen. But what you then do, or what I then do, is then channel it through intention and say, okay, well, I'm gonna blow light into this place like nothing else and see what happens, and things always end up happening as a result, and it's really cool. So all of you guys who live in cities, there are definitely ways that you can connect, and and that you can bring presence there and bring love there, because human love, and this is something that the fairies told me, is human love is the same as nature. It is nature, and it's the creative force, obviously. So if you're walking by a very cultivated little natural area in a great big city made of concrete and steel and asphalt, then, and you pour love into that space, it's just, the space feels as if it's all of a sudden been put back into nature and is showered with all of these growth and health and creation energies. One last thing is, actually, a lot of people ask me about the little jewelry things that I wear all the time, and most of them are made by my friend Caitlin at Vibes Up. I'll put the link down below in the information section, but it's vibesup.com. And I always wear these little earth angel pendants. I wear them as bracelets, but they're actually necklaces, but I like wearing them as bracelets better because I'm always having all this stuff around my neck anyway. So her stuff is extremely helpful. Also, I have this little bag from her that I've been carrying and I love it. And so when you surround yourself with earth energy things, and her Vibes Up merchandise is filled with earth energy, and she's got all the scientific and intuitive reasons behind it on her website. But especially if you're in a place where there's not much natural energy, it's nicer to keep yourself well hydrated, eat foods that are more healthy because they bring the life in that you might otherwise get just from being in the natural spot where all the life already abounds. And also kind of line yourself with all of these things. I'm also wearing a Russian cedar pendant, and I love it. It's fabulous, and I've been getting them for everyone I know. I have a couple crystals that I keep in my little medicine bag here, and I've also been wearing, this is from Vibes Up, and it's a little geode with an amethyst in the center. So it is really, really grounding, but with the amethyst in the center, it's grounded, but then allows for that intuitive pop too, which is fabulous, and this is from Vibes Up as well. So anyway, those are some tips on all of you in the city. I've got some more stuff lately. So much has been happening. Some personal things have been happening, which I'll tell you a little bit about in another video, but also I've been getting so much information, so I think I'm really going to be rolling out the videos pretty fast nowadays, at least for a little while. And thank you to all of you newcomers. There's been really a burst in subscriptions and stuff on my YouTube page, which is great, and it's funny how timing works out because it's full of synchronicity and stuff. So thank you, and it's so good to be connected with so many more people. If you have any questions or comments, I'm here, and I guess that's all I have for you. Have a great day. Remember to be connected and present. Keep your vibration as high as you can, but also don't forget to ground into your physical and emotional bodies. So blessings, go on your way in joy and love, and I will speak to you again soon.